Reconstruction. This period in American history is called Reconstruction period. The word conjures up the image of physical rebuilding, the rebuilding of the South after the Civil War. But this period that began at the end of the Civil War was not so much about the physical rebuilding, but of the attempt to politically rebuild the South. With the end of the Civil War, the question was what to do with the southern states. President Lincoln had hoped to be generous and allow the easy reintegration of the southern states into the Union. However, his assassination changed everything. The new president, President Johnson, was actually a governor from a southern state. However, the Republicans in Congress did not trust him. And the Southerners who took control of the southern states immediately after the Civil War didn't help their own matters. They passed a series of what's called black codes. These black codes limited the freedom, the ability of freed slaves to take any job other than jobs as field hands. In other words, to return to the things they were doing as slaves, except this time being paid small sums of money. Immediately in the North there was an outcry. Why did they fight the Civil War? What were all the deaths for? If the Southern slaves would once again be almost slaves again. The result? The Reconstruction Act. That Reconstruction Act, which passed despite the objections of President Johnson, called for federal troops to impose rules in the South and to grant the former slaves the rights to vote, the rights to hold land, all of the rights given to other citizens. For the next 13 years, the Reconstruction administration, led by the military, controlled most of the South. Yes, the southern states were independent. They elected new representatives, rejoined the Union, and in many cases there were Southern African-American senators, congressmen, and even governors. Until the election of 1876, after which President Hayes, in order to secure the requisite number of votes in the Electoral College, after losing the popular vote, agreed to remove Union troops, or federal troops at that point, from the South. Reconstruction was the norm. But once the troops were removed, Southerners once again began blocking African Americans from holding jobs, traveling on public transportation, and certainly holding office. That was the period of Reconstruction, an attempt that did not return until the 1960s of fully integrating the former slaves into the Southern economy, into the Southern political sphere. Of course, this period, even though it's called the Reconstruction, was also a different period in the United States history. It was the period of invention. It was the period the Transcontinental Railroad was connected, and therefore linking the East Coast and the West Coast. It was the period that the telephone was invented, therefore creating a whole new way of communicating. Those two events, plus many smaller technological events during this period, set the stage for the next period of American history, what we call the industrialization period.